All right, well, here's a few news articles that I thought were interesting. A couple of people I've seen, including Zelensky, are saying that Putin is not bluffing about his nuclear weapons threat. They do seem to think that him calling it more troops is insane. There are stories of troops with no military experience being given 1 day of training and dumped without any equipment just to die in Ukraine. So it does look like these 300,000 new troops are not going to do him much good, and they say using nuclear weapons might be how he tries to compensate, because giving up and admitting the war is wrong would cause him to lose power, and he'd rather die than that, apparently. So this was something that was supposed to happen, I think, in the Inflation Reduction Act, or one of the other acts that went through recently, and it's going to happen. More EV charging plants for all 50 states. They're going to have at least 4 charging pads per station. They're going to have at least 1 station every 50 miles, and the station's no more than 1 mile from the interstate. So this sounds very good. One huge problem with our attempt to switch to electrical cars is a lack of charging stations, and this sounds like it was a good thing to address that. The CDC has ended mask mandates in hospitals and most everywhere else, and Biden said the pandemic is over. I think this is nonsense. You know, I've had COVID. It's dangerous. I'm still avoiding it. I highly recommend continuing to mask in dangerous places and restricting your activities. And in the UK, it's rising again. There's often a surge in the fall and the winter, and it looks like we're going to have one. So I think all this nonsense of telling people it's okay not to have masks is just going to be rolled back again, like it has been so many times before. I've seen on the TV comedy shows packed auditoriums, just full of people with no masks, just packed in like they were before COVID, and I think that's just insane. Super spreader events all over the place. We'll see, but I do not think there is any scientific basis for pretending that COVID is over and telling people it's okay not to wear masks. It's just a cynical political move to make people feel happier. And hopefully they won't notice that they're being lied to, I guess. This is pretty interesting. You have to install this software, and there is some kind of trial version, and you have to buy credits or get a certain number of credits for free. But what you do is you describe what you want, prepend image to all ping files, and then it will send that up to AI, and it will figure out what command you should have to do that, and write a little program for you. They have demonstrations of it. It can write programs in PHP and Bash and Python and other languages. So this is a programmer's aid to write little programs and commands for you from verbal descriptions. Definitely the kind of thing that we're going to see a lot more of, AI assistance for coders. So the United States, as we know, has serious problems. Probably our most serious problem overall is our failure of a national health service. You need the credits because I think they charge you credits every time you make a request. And so you only get a certain number of credits, and then you have to buy more if you want to keep using it. Because remember, you're really using some cloud AI service, which I guess is expensive. So anyway, but we are #1 in cyberpower, which I think should not be a surprise to anybody. These guys rate us on many scores. These people are not too happy, and we're very appallingly bad on medical care. But we've always been #1. We're #1 for years on various measures of offensive and defensive cyberpower, which I think is, the whole world knows that. I'm not surprised. The Lazarus Group is North Korean hacker group, and they're attacking macOS users. And the part I was interested in is they talk about macOS malware. I have never found any macOS malware, and it would be an interesting thing to analyze. Like in this class, we're only doing Windows malware, but there is some macOS malware, and I'd like to get samples of it and learn more about it. There is macOS defensive tools you can get, but they seem sort of primitive and weak. And so, you know, it's not a popular field, not at all as important as Windows or Android malware. But anyway, they talk about this. The Lazarus Group is targeting people who are looking for jobs. They will send you a job opportunity, and then when you click on the link, it will install malware. So it deploys a Mach-O binary, which is Mac executables, and that's the dropper. That loads a PDF document, and on it goes. It sounds like it's pretty much duplicating the sort of stages you see in Windows malware, but it would be interesting to learn more about that. So I heard about one of these, but I didn't know there were so many. There apparently were many cases in the 80s when my entire generation that were young adults at that time were surveyed, and none of us expected to live to be 30 because the nuclear threat was very high, and it was much worse than we thought. The reason why most of us expected to die was because it was clear that Reagan was champing at the bit, and so was the president of the USSR, but there was a high chance of mistakes, and there were like many cases detailed in this article when there was a false alarm. One of them, there was an alarm sounded just because the sun reflecting off clouds was misidentified as 5 incoming ICBMs. And the soldier in charge of monitoring it was supposed to tell his superiors and launch ICBMs, and he just didn't do it because he just figured it was not a false alarm. And there were several other cases like that. So it's more scary than we knew at the time. This is an interesting article, very much for this class, and also for my Francis class. This is a video from some paid class, and they made this one free, so you can take memory images and analyze them with a debugger, which I've never done. In fact, I didn't even know you could interrogate memory with a debugger, so I'll watch this. I recommend checking it out, and I'll probably, if it looks good, I'll turn it into a project, because that's interesting. I know how to analyze it with offline tools, strings, and also memorize or some related tool. I think there's another tool in Python even better than memorize, a special tool just to reconstruct things from memory, but if there's a way to do it with a debugger, that's interesting. I guess if you only take the memory from one process, you could load it in memory and connect to it and run it again. I'm not sure. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see. This was pretty impressive. This guy found a vulnerability in OpenSea, and they paid him $100,000. So some people really hit the jackpot with these bug bounties. Of course, I've never made that much off it. You have to be the first, and you have to find something awesome. So it's not a practical thing for most people to do, but that's an impressive payout.
What's OpenSea?
OpenSea is the NFT marketplace, cryptocurrency. And I guess they're rolling in the dough, even though NFCs have crashed horribly. But people do hack them and steal tons of it, so they have a high interest in protecting it. So what's going on with this nonsense? Oh, some garbage. Okay. So Navarro was involved in the Trump administration, and apparently he used a private server instead of the official email server, which, by the way, is the same thing Hillary Clinton did. And now they're asking him to return the White House emails, which is an entertaining thing in various ways. In the first place, I guess it makes sense that he shouldn't have an unauthorized copy, but you can't really return an email. I mean, what you should do is like delete it and prove that you've deleted it or something. But anyway, it is an interesting issue, and of course this is going to attract a lot of interest now that Trump is being accused of mishandling paper records, and the Republicans are largely defending him by saying Hillary did the same thing, whereas what Hillary did was very different. In fact, Hillary came out recently and pointed out that they researched it for years, they investigated it, and they determined that none of the emails was in fact classified on her server. So she didn't have classified emails on her private server. But Navarro apparently did, and Trump certainly did. Take paper copies.
Politicians are hypocrites, huh?
Well, yeah, that's right. The Republicans are frequently hypocrites. Yeah, all politicians lie a lot, but this current gang of Republicans are much more dishonest than I think they've ever been. They just want power, and they'll say any lie to get it. Bypass priv-esc. I found this Windows exploit. Oh, let's take a look at this. Oh, Shift F10. Bypass. Well, Shift F10 normally gives you a command prompt. Let's see, during a pen test, Microsoft Solutions, elevate privileges, full chain exploitation. Yep, okay. A vulnerability of Windows. Yeah, Shift F10 will typically give you a command prompt. And during install it, well, yeah, this is a really old trick if he's doing an installation. Well, anyway, I know you can use Shift F10 to get a system command prompt. Anyway, I'll save it. It looks too complicated to figure out the details of what he's done now, but I'll throw it in the news. All right.
Who paid the most money bounty?
That's a good question. Who pays the most in a bounty? I've never heard of $100,000 anywhere. So, but I don't really know exactly. I'm impressed. It's looking to me like cryptocurrency might be the biggest right now.
The FBI at one time gave like 1 million, right?
Well, yes, I have heard of that. That's 0-day sales. That's not bug reports. Now, if you develop a 0-day and sell it to the military so they can use it to attack people, you can get several million for that. That's been out there for, but brokers, if you develop a 0-day, which would be a 0-day like on the iOS on the iPhone, they will pay you a couple million for that. But that's not reporting it to get it fixed. Apple will not pay you that much to tell you and get it fixed. That's for military to use it as an attack, which is the way you really make money. Okay. Anyway, so Texas has passed a law which would just stop Twitter from banning Trump. That their big policy, which by the way is probably true, that if Twitter and Facebook had not kicked off Trump, he would have won the election. And I guess it happened after the election that they did it anyway. That's their argument, and they want to make it illegal for.
No, it's after the president.
Yeah, it was. But anyway, they very much think it was wrong, and they very much want to prevent social media from kicking people off. And they did kick some people off before, like Alex Jones. And a lot of Republicans say that affected their numbers, and it might have. So they tried to pass a law that said no social media can kick off any alternative point of view, and that would mean they can't do anything about Nazis or hate speech or abusive emails or anything. And so it is widely considered to be unconstitutional and insane. And so in order to, it's currently tied up in the courts, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And given this Supreme Court, maybe they'll approve it, because this Supreme Court doesn't really seem to care about the law very much. So anyway, what Reddit has done is they made a subreddit, and they require every single post to call Greg Abbott a little piss baby, to insult him. And anything else is blocked. And they say, here we are moderating things in a way you probably don't like, so we're daring you to do something about it. So they're trying to make themselves an example of flagrant violation to sort of theatrically find out what he'll do about it. All right. And all right. So I think that's enough of the news. Let me stop this recording.